Guys, welcome. Thank you for coming. It's good to see some new faces, good to see my students' faces. So I'm Lexi. I've been working here for about 4 years now, a little less than, and I've been training horses here for about a year, but I've been training my personal horses for 12 years or so. I've trained friends' horses and just anything I can get my hands on to train, I'll do it. So this here is Bowie. Bowie is one of our auction horses that we got back in January, and he's supposed to be a super awesome horse, but he's been lame since we brought him over here from sitting with the cattle. We don't really know what's going on truly, so we've been lightly working him on days where he feels like it, just to keep him kind and respectful. So today he had the vet come out and we took some x-rays of his leg. It's this back leg over on the opposite side from where I'm standing, and there wasn't anything obvious, which is great, but also not great. Yeah, Kat?
How does one take an x-ray of a horse's back leg?
Good question. So their x-rays are portable. So they have their assistant will come. They have a lead plate, so they'll hold the plate depending on where they need to get the angle. The plate has to go on the opposite side of where the x-ray machine goes. So I've got my camera over there, so let me try and stand in a way where everybody can see. So if I use his front leg as an example, the technician will stand here with the lead plate. The vet will stand on the opposite side and angle their machine straight to the lead plate. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. When I was a technician as a small animal tech, we just had this gargantuan machine that had to stay in our clinic, and so first time I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, it moves! I would love one of those. So anyways, that's how they do it. So we took x-rays and we didn't see anything obvious. The hard part with x-rays is that we can only really see their bones. So it just essentially told us that he had no bone issues. So we were looking for stuff like maybe a fracture, meaning he broke his leg, or like a bone spur where he has an abnormal growth somewhere, stuff like that. So didn't see anything, which at least eliminates a possibility of what it could be. So the doctor thinks that it is more like a ligament issue or a soft tissue issue. So we are good to still work him. He's got to be regulated a little bit, but we want to kind of build up his muscle. I'll turn towards the camera a little bit. So he's a little bit ribby right here, so we want him to fatten up a little bit, but he's not too bad shape-wise. The other thing that we did today was we floated his teeth. So unlike us, horses' teeth don't ever stop growing. So we have to actually file down their teeth so that they don't get sharp and pointy. As they eat, their teeth kind of grind, and so it'll create these sharp points in their cheeks, on their teeth, that rub on their cheeks. So we have to file them down. When they get really bad sharp points, it's hard for them to eat sometimes. So we're hoping that helps him gain a little weight, and then we're hoping that as we work him a little bit more, his leg will feel better, he'll start putting on more muscle.
How often do you have to shave their teeth down?
Good question. Most of the time it's once yearly. Some horses you got to do more, some horses you got to do less. So like my personal horse Paisley, I do hers every other year because she's just been consistent. But also as they get older, their teeth will grow a little bit faster. So sometimes when they get older, you got to do them more frequently. Just kind of depends on the horse. But we get ours checked every 6 months. Whoever needs it gets it. Whoever doesn't need it just gets checked again in 6 months. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, perfect. So we are gonna do a lot of low impact work for him right now, and a lot of like respectful boundaries type stuff. So one thing that I hold both our horses to, the standard that I hold them to, is that even if they're hurting, they need to be kind and respectful. They're allowed to tell me they're hurting, but they're not allowed to hurt me. So he was really nice with the vet. When the vet came out today, he was kind of back here and he went to go grab his foot. He was kind of palpating right here. He didn't do it there, but he kind of lifted up his foot and like kicked backwards. The vet was standing right about where I was. So he was very polite. He was like, hey, that hurts. So even though he didn't come forward to try to kick the vet or like turn around to bite him, he's telling him that it hurt. And I'm okay with our horses doing that because I want them to tell me when they're hurt, right? But they've got to be polite about it. So The other thing too is they need to be able to be handled for their vet visits and for their farrier visits, because those don't stop just because they hurt. In fact, usually they increase because they're hurting. So they have to be kind and polite to people. They also need to understand how to move their bodies so that the vet can easily see what's hurting them. Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're gonna do, can I have this, sir? He's like, this is mine now. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask him to yield his hindquarters. So when we yield our hindquarters, when they yield their hindquarters, they're gonna plant this front foot that's closer to me, and then they're gonna push their back feet out away from me. So what ideally he should do is he'll plant this front foot, and then, come here, let's show everybody. So if I stand here and I twist around keeping both feet planted, there's only so far I can go, right? Eventually I'm gonna have to pick up one of my feet to keep turning. So they're gonna plant this inside front foot, that's by me, and they're gonna softly move their outside, sorry, I said hind foot, I meant front foot. Then they're gonna slowly move their other front foot, okay? Excuse me. He's like, I'm moving. And then what he's gonna do is this inside hind foot should come around in front of his outside hind foot and cross over. So he's going to be kind of doing this motion, okay? What this does is it allows us to push his body away from us when needed, or make him do like quick, tight turns, okay? This is going to be really good for building up that muscle that we were talking about, because this isn't a motion that most horses do out in the wild. Most of the time in the wild, all they're doing is circling around or walking forward. Very rarely are they backing up or moving their bum away. Part of that goes into how they protect themselves. When they protect themselves, they're going to use their feet first, and then they're going to use their chompers up here. So they're always going to give you a heads up that they're going to turn and bite you. But usually they're going to turn to kick you first. Part of that is because they don't want predators grabbing their face. So if you can move their bum out of your space, it's a very respectful thing of the horse to move. But because it's not a very normal thing for them to do, we'll build up that muscle really nicely. Does that all make sense? Perfect. So what we're going to do, I'm going to stand right here at his rib cage. For those of you that were here last week, we talked about the drive line. So the drive line is right here where the cinch sits, and it just comes up and over. So if I'm standing in front of my drive line, I'm pushing him back away from me. If I am standing behind the drive line, I'm driving him forward away from me, okay? So this is kind of our pivotal point. It's roughly, if we take the length of the horse, it's roughly halfway between the front and the back. So if I want his hindquarters to move, I'm going to come stand in this half of his body behind my drive line. And then I'm going to slide my hand down my lead rope and gently tip his nose towards me. It doesn't have to be all the way. Sometimes when horses are learning, we got to pull it a little bit more. But I know him well enough, he's pretty good at this. Good boy. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my active body language, meaning I'm going to lean forward at him. I'm talking about the wild a lot today. So in the wild or out in the paddock when they're interacting with each other, if they want another horse to move, they're going to lower their head and start walking at that horse. And then sometimes they'll fight it out to figure out who needs to move. But if you have a lead horse and the other herd members know that they're the lead horse, they're just going to walk away from that horse. So essentially I'm asking him in a way where he would ask another horse. So I'm using quote unquote his language, his body language. So again, I'll stand here at the rib cage. I'm going to gently tip the nose towards me. Then I'm going to kind of pull it up to his wither as I'm leaning forward. I'm actually going to drape some of this up over him. So that's a lot of rope. And then I'm going to keep my stick and string up here by the point of his hip right here, okay? And initially I'm going to do 4 taps in the air to ask him to move. If he doesn't start moving his hip, I'm going to tap him 4 times. If he still doesn't move, I'm going to whack him 4 times. Now, I know he's hurt, so I'm going to be a little more gentle with him than I normally would be with a horse if I have to correct him to move. Just because I know he's sore and he's hurting, and I want to listen to him, right? Again, they can tell me they're hurting as long as they're polite about it. So I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to gently tip that nose, bring my hand up a little bit, lean forward, And now I'm gonna tap the air 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now he's moving in a circle around me. He hasn't planted that front foot yet. He's kind of thinking about it. He's moving it less than his hind end, but I'm gonna hold him to that standard because I know he can do it. So now I've tapped him 4 times. I'm gonna give him a little bit of a harder tap, and I might also cluck at him a little bit to encourage that movement. So right there, I don't know if you guys saw it, he did 1 good step. So now I'm gonna relax my body language. I've relaxed my lead rope, and I'm rubbing where my stick and string pressure was to let him know he did a good job. So now what I'm gonna do is, I like to sit here and wait for just a minute. A mistake that I made when training Raina was that I would stop and then I would immediately go back into asking her to move. So she figured out that when we do whatever activity we're doing, she's just going to be constantly moving, and that was a mistake on my part, and I'm still going back and fixing it sometimes. So I try to sit here and relax, and sometimes I'll even rub him again and just be like, great job for standing still. Just give him some love, let him know he's doing good. And then what we'll do is I'll get back in position, and same thing, I won't immediately ask him to go because I want him to learn to listen to my body language, not my stick and string. And I don't want him to be apprehensive of what I'm asking. I don't know if you guys remember, but last week, Tex kept spinning in towards me and he was getting apprehensive of what I was gonna ask. So I kept correcting him back to going around in a circle around me in the round pen. If you guys haven't watched that video, go log into school and watch that video because it was a really good one. And some of the stuff that I'm talking about today will make a little more sense too. But now that he's relaxed, I'm gonna ask him again to move his hindquarters. So I'm gonna gently tip his nose. He's kind of fighting me a little, so I might kind of like bounce my rope a little bit. I'm gonna lean forward, tap the air, kind of smooch at him. He didn't go, so now I'm gonna tap his butt. He's kind of thinking there, so I'm gonna keep tapping on him. He's kind of kicking out at some flies. So now I'm gonna increase my pressure because I've asked him very nicely for a little while. Good boy. So then same thing, he took 1 good step. So initially when we're training horses, all we're looking for is 1 good step or a step in the right direction. When they start to figure that out, then we can start adding 2 steps in, then 3 steps, then 4 steps, then 5 steps before they get that release. Where I don't know him as well, I like to just give that release right off the bat. And he's kind of being what we call sticky, meaning he doesn't want to move away. So I'm just gonna be persistent, keep asking him, just get him really good at that 1 step. Does that make sense to you guys? Perfect. Do you guys have any questions? All right. So I'm just gonna keep going. We'll just do it a couple times on each side. I might tip his nose a little bit more. There we go. Good boy. There you go. Good boy.
I have a question about stopping.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to, the last time they cross, then begin to start rubbing? When is the best time to like?
Good question. So I go right when they're about to uncross their feet. That way they're standing square when they get that release. The part of that is if they cross and then they undo their leg and then they start taking a second step and they do it crappily, that's when they're getting their release, is when they take that crappy step. So if we can mitigate that by releasing as they're bringing this foot to be square, they're usually going to stand nicely for you at that point.
And this is the hindquarters.
Yeah, the hindquarters. It applies to the forequarters, which is what you were doing too earlier today. So keep that in mind. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I don't know if you guys can see it. He's doing this lick and chew right here. We talked about it last week too, but that's an endorphin release for them. So it means that they're comfortable with what we're doing and they're starting to understand what we're doing. As long as we're doing it right. Because they're gonna learn off of that release. If we release at a bad time, like I was talking about earlier, where they're crossing their feet and then maybe take a crappy step afterwards, that's not a good release time. And they're gonna learn that they can take one good step and then one bad step, and that's when they're gonna get their release. There you go. Good. Good boy. Hi. So if they kind of accidentally bonk me, I'll just gently pull them out of my space. He's kind of a big oaf, and he'll like I don't know if you guys saw it earlier, but he was like stepping on my feet while I was out here. He kind of bonks me with his head. So I'll usually be pretty nice about that and just be like, hey, get off my foot. Hey, get out of my space. And these hindquarter movements and these backing movements are going to be really good for getting him to be able to stay out of my space a little bit better. Good boy. So he's kind of moving still. I'm just going to keep rubbing him and kind of move with him a little bit to try to get him to slow down and stop. Eventually he'll figure out that the rubbing means that he can stop and he doesn't need to keep going. But I'm not going to reprimand him for keeping going. Like, he's just trying to do what I was initially asking. He'll start to figure out he's putting in way more effort than he needs to when he does that. So I don't know if you guys noticed, he's not as good on this side as he was the other side. The other side, he was pretty willing to take those nice good steps. This side, he wants to kind of move his forequarters a little bit more. Part of that might be that this is the side that's bugging him, so he's gonna feel a little bit different on this side. Another aspect of it too is that just like people, horses are right-handed and left-handed. For them, it's their legs, right? So usually they have one side that they're worse at than the other. And so it's important that we work both sides as equally as possible, if not work the bad side a little bit more, depending on what they need. Okay. It's like this sand feels so good. Right there, he's kind of getting in my space, so I'm going to push him just a little bit. So he's moving his hind end. Oh, there he goes. He was moving that hind end really nicely, but he wasn't willing to plant this front foot. So I just kept asking him until he was willing to plant that foot. Okay, so now we're going to work on our backing. We'll hold our rope fairly short when we do our backing. These ropes are training ropes, so they're really, really long. So we're gonna hold roughly 1 stick and string length away from the clip. If I just come up here and measure it. Sometimes I like to hold a little bit shorter depending on the horse. But he's kind of got this like goofy long neck compared to his body. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have that active body language. We're gonna lean forward, and then I'm gonna tap the air by his nose, and we'll do increments of 4 just like our other pressures. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. If he doesn't go, I'm gonna tap my lead rope. 1, 2, 3, 4. If he still doesn't go, I'm gonna whack the lead rope. 1, 2, 3, 4. If he really doesn't want to go, I'll come up here by this clip and smack. 1, 2, 3, 4. If he still really doesn't want to go, I might come up and give him a little smack on the chest and be like, hey, I asked you to go, you need to go now. If we get to that point, like, we want to be pretty adamant with him because we've asked him 4 different times with increasing pressure to go. So if I get to that point, I'm a little more firm about it than for like the hindquarters where we tapped in the air, tapped his bum. We're pretty nice about that. At that point, I'll just reach up and give him a pretty good whack. So I'm gonna ask through my body first. I'm gonna make sure he looks at me so he's paying attention. He's kind of watching over there. I think he hears their stick and string. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He kind of took a step forward. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, dude. There we go. So he kind of dragged that foot. It wasn't the best step back, but I'm going to take it because it was a step in the right direction. So I want to reward him for that little bit of effort and let him know that he did a good job. So then he keeps like walking forward, so I'm just going to tap this foot that I want him to back up. I might even like press into his space a little bit. So when he takes that step back, he should stay back there. He shouldn't come forward until I invite him by either taking steps back myself or gently pulling on my rope. Good boy. Good boy. So by whacking that clip, I'm moving his halter a little bit more and it creates more pressure for him. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but as soon as I was whacking his lead rope, he kind of leaned back a little bit, which tells me he's thinking about backing. I'm going to keep doing my pressure because I want him to commit to it, but I want to keep an eye out for that because then I know I need to be prepared to let him have a release. Good boy. He's like, I'm half asleep over here. Good boy. So I'm also not too worried about him going straight right now. I just want to worry about getting his momentum started and getting him backing up. Let's see, how are we doing on time? We're good. Then right there, he kind of came in my space again, so I'm going to correct him out. He's kind of looking away, so I'll correct him back. Good boy. I know. He keeps being like, oh, you're relaxing. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. Usually I make him get a little bit better at this, but I want to kind of show you guys what it looks like. So, good boy. So the next one is what we call wiggle wave whack. So I'm holding in the same place with my lead rope, still gonna lean forward, but I'm gonna wiggle my lead rope a little bit. And then I'm gonna do these big, long arcing waves with my stick and string and my lead rope. As I do that, I'm gonna start walking towards him. If he doesn't go and I get close enough to just smack him, I'm going to. And you guys can see, like, I didn't whack him hard. I just kind of let it bump him. And then he was like, oh, okay, I need to back up. So this one's good for starting to build up some more steps. It's also good to start getting them to back up a little more straight, which doesn't always happen, but I feel like it takes about a week to get them really good at backing, get them to go nice and straight. Good boy. Good boy. I don't know if you can see it too. He's taking much bigger steps back now. He's very willing to back up. So now I'm kind of getting close to the fence. So with these new guys that I'm just barely teaching, I'll usually come back into the center so that they're not feeling like they're up against a fence and like they have to pick a direction. Because some horses will start backing, then right when they get right about here, they know that fence is back there and they know that they're not going to be able to back up. So they'll start picking a direction to back up. Once they get really good and they'll start listening to you, and you can kind of hone in like, I want you to take a big step, I want you to take a small step, I'll challenge them and I'll back them up to the fence and make them sit with their butt on the fence. I don't do that for a long time, until the horse is ready again, about a week. But some horses do get to that point pretty quick. He's probably not one of them. But let's see. I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna change my hands. Do you guys have any questions so far? Good boy. Good.
When you're starting, are you standing more off to the side or in front?
Good question. We want to stand directly in the front because we want them to back straight. I kind of stood a little bit this way because his hip was tilted that time. So then, I don't know if you can see it, he corrected his hip that way and actually went back straight. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So now, again, he's getting a little close to that fence, so I'm not going to ask him to take as many steps this time, but we'll still ask him to take a couple steps back so he gets used to going back towards the fence. We've got to find a starting point and build up to it. So for him, this is kind of his starting point. He keeps twisting out there. Good boy. So again, this backing will create a lot of good muscle buildup for that hind end for him. Good boy. He's like, can I go this way? Good boy. Okay, so now to kind of help him cool down and help his muscles stretch out a little bit, I might lunge him just right here on my rope. I don't know if he knows this. I've never done this with him. It looks like he does. But we talked about drive line a little bit earlier, so I want to be behind my drive line. I want to have my stick and string in the hand that's closer to his bum and my lead rope hand that's closer to his face. When we do this, we kind of make like a pizza with him, a little triangle. He's like the crust and I'm the center. And he should go in a nice circle around me. He's pretty consistent. The hard part with auction horses is you know little to nothing about them. So some of this stuff we're learning about him, both in the last 2 months, but also today and right now and, you know, in the future. I can see he knows this. He's walking out really nicely. He's walking out really confidently. I'm not having to correct him into the walk or encourage him to keep walking forward. I do notice though he walks with a really loose lead rope. I love that. It tells me that he knows he needs to stay on his circle, but that also tells me he's probably used to having a shorter lead rope like this. You see how that's still loose, but it's a little more taut and it's not dragging in the ground. So now I might ask him to change directions. So I'm gonna step in front of the drive line. I think he's gonna maybe go to the bathroom. Maybe, maybe not. So what I'm gonna do, it's nice that he's stopped now. I'm gonna step in front of his drive line. So I'm like way out in front of his nose. As I do that, I'm gonna pass my stick and string to my other hand. And I usually keep my lead rope between my pointer finger and my thumb. And as I pass it, I'm gonna hold onto it with my 3 fingers. Then I'm gonna flip my hand and I'm gonna change which hand is holding the lead rope and the stick and string. So now I'm gonna also kind of choke up on this to encourage him to turn this way. I'm gonna use my stick and string to encourage him to keep going. And then he's gonna walk out nice and easy again. So right here, 2 fingers, pass it over to the 3, kind of slide down on my lead rope as I step in front and pass that stick and string over, and he should turn. Some horses, you've got to really encourage them to keep walking. They want to stop kind of close to you. Even though he's coming towards me a little bit, he's being really nice and he's continuing his momentum, and he's actually backing out of my space. So for today, I'm gonna let him do that. In general, when he gets feeling a little bit better, I'll challenge him a little bit more and try to keep him out of my space a little bit more. So when I hold my hand up, I'm just encouraging him to keep going. I'm also standing with my shoulders rolled back and my chest out to encourage him to keep going. If he were to maybe slow down a little bit or want to stop, like right there, I'd kind of lean forward as I'm holding this up, and then I'd smooch at him. He doesn't want to go, so I'm going to take my stick and string and just spank the ground behind him. I don't know if you guys saw, but as soon as I moved that stick and string, he was like, okay, I'm going. So now, when we're on the lead rope, we're gonna ask him to stop in a little bit of a different way. So I'm gonna slide my hand down my lead rope. I'm actually gonna step towards his hindquarters and encourage him to turn to look at me. He did it pretty good. Again, I'm still getting to know him, so I'm pretty impressed that he planted those front foot and just those front feet and immediately turned his bum around. That was really nice of him. The vet said about 7. That's the nice thing about horses, because their teeth don't stop growing. There's different signs to tell us how old a horse is. So even if you buy a horse knowing nothing about them, you can look at their teeth and you can get a general idea of how old they are. Good boy. I don't know if you guys can see it, but he's doing what we call a rollback, or the start to a rollback, where he plants those hind feet and kind of jumps on his front feet to turn around. It's a little hard because I know, again, his back leg is hurting, so I know he's doing his best. The other part to that is he's also walking right now, and so it's going to be a lot harder for him to do that. Usually when you get to the trot and the canter, it's a little bit easier for them to do a rollback. It's a good movement for when you're working cattle. Cattle are really sneaky and they'll try to turn around on you if you get too far in front. Cattle have a drive line too. So if you get too far in front of that cow or the steer, whatever you're herding, it'll try to turn around. So it's kind of nice to teach your horse a rollback, because then they can change directions really fastly with that cow. Good boy. I don't know if you guys can see, I'm kind of letting my rope drag. Usually I'd pick it up with a horse that I'm teaching, but he's super calm, super docile, and so I'll just kind of let it tail around just so that I'm not holding so much rope. If it were muddy or I didn't trust the horse, I'd pick it up a bit more, but I tend to just leave it. It's a little controversial, but to each their own. One thing I forgot to mention, when I ask him to stop, when I slide this hand down, I'm pulling towards my belly button to get him to tip that nose towards me. Good boy.
If he wasn't moving out, what would you do?
What was that?
If he wasn't moving out of your space, what would you do?
Oh, good question. So if he's not moving out of my space, I would go back to doing the hindquarters, doing the forequarters, which we didn't talk about today, but we'll talk about maybe next week or the following week. We'll talk about it pretty quick. And backing up, because those are all items that we can use to get them out of our space. Usually what we want to do is get them really good at the hindquarters and really good at the backing and the forequarters before we do this. But I'm trying to let him cool down a little bit and kind of stretch out a little, because the backing and the hindquarters, he's got to kind of tense up his muscles a little bit and like hold himself a little bit more than when he's just walking forward. Like he can be a little looser in his movements and in his muscles. So I would just go back to one of those items or multiple of those items. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So the last thing we'll work on today is called flexing. Sometimes this gets a little bit tricky. They have a tendency to want to move their hindquarters when we do this because it's the same motion as when we're asking them to move their hindquarters. So again, this is something that I really only do with a horse that I trust. So what I'll do, I'll come around to face you guys a little bit better. So I'm gonna stand facing the same way that he is. I'm gonna stand pretty close to where we were with the hindquarters. And then I'm just gonna, oh, he's like, I'm ready, let me move. Oh, good boy. Now he's not facing the right way for you guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide my hand down my rope, bring it out away from my body initially, just to get him to start tipping. To add pressure, I'm gonna kind of like bounce my lead rope a little bit. He moved there, so I'm gonna keep my pressure the same until he decides to stop. I'm very relaxed in my body when I do this. Good boy. And I wanna make sure that I'm not like pulling him around or being rude. So, can you come this way? Thank you, good boy. So I'll show you guys again. We're gonna slide our hand down our rope. He's not really paying attention, so I'm gonna bring his head back to me. And then we're gently gonna ask them. When they're very first learning this, just like what we did with the hindquarters, where I was like, just look for one step. Initially, I'm just asking that their nose starts to come towards me. It doesn't have to come all the way over here, but eventually we'll get them to the point where they can bring it almost all the way to me. They're kind of limited by how long their neck is. So like I have two horses. I have one that has a short stubby neck like Bowie here, and then I have one that has a really long neck. So when I stand here, my one horse with the short neck can't quite reach me. The one horse with the long neck can easily reach me. So it all kind of depends on the horse whether they can reach you back here or not. But same thing, he wants to move here, so I'm just gonna keep my pressure the same, wait for him to give in to me. I'm not going to count that because he went to go itch instead of just tipping his nose, but right there he tipped his nose at me. He's willing to hold it, which I love. Initially, I don't make them hold it just because it's a hard concept for them to understand. We've got to make those building blocks to help them understand that they don't need to move for this. Good boy. Does that all make sense to you guys? Perfect. Let me turn him around a little bit. Good boy, right there. Ooh. Good boy. Oh, you got bugs. And I'm kind of pulling upwards too after I get that initial tip. I pull upwards toward their wither like we did with the hindquarters. Good boy. I don't know if you can see it. I keep dropping my rope to give him a nice big release to let him know that's exactly what I wanted. Good boy. So now he's starting to get it. He didn't move his feet at all that time. So ideally what we want to do is get really good on one side, have them get a basic understanding of what we're asking, and then move on to the other side. Just like how they're left-handed and right-handed, they also have two different sides of the brain they think with. We call one the reactive side and one the thinking side. Reactive side would be a horse that's like constantly wanting to move, just trying to blow out of the pressure in an extreme example, but just not really willing to hold still. Once they start using their thinking side, they try to figure out how to get that pressure release. So for him, he's using that thinking side now because he's planting his feet. He knows that I'm starting to ask him to just bring his nose over, and I might challenge him here and ask him to hold it. Good boy. So once he gets really good on one side, we'll move to the other side. Another component to that is that horses are prey animals, and so their eyes are on either side of their head. They can't see directly behind them. They can see some stuff directly in front of them, but it's not great. It's got to be a little bit further away from them for them to see it really well. So they also have really bad depth perception. So when I change sides, he's actually looking at me on a different eye. So right now he's looking at me through his right eye. Initially he was looking at me on his left eye. So they tend to think that it's a whole different thing. And some horses, you got to restart with them on each side, and you got to kind of build them up again. He's doing really good that first time that I asked him. This time he's moving. So sometimes we just got to restart and find an easier point, even though he did it awesome on his left-hand side. Good boy. I'm kind of scratching him and loving on him in between each one, just to let him know he did a good job. There you go, good boy. He says, I want a friend.
Is that basically just to get them to turn? Or?
Yeah, good question. So it stretches out their neck. It also tries to help them figure out that we're not just going to move around every time I come in here and work him. So it'll stretch their neck really nicely. It will also help them to get soft and supple to the pressure on their face. So, excuse me, sir. So eventually what we'll do is when we start getting them used to their bridles, we'll put a bridle on them and do this in the bridle. So they have a good understanding of what the pressure feels like in their mouth before we actually start riding with them. Good boy. So now I might challenge him again and ask him to hold this. Looking at his body, he was more flexible on the other side. He's not as flexible on this side. So this would be a side that I work with him a little bit more to get him to be more flexible. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good. One thing I want to point out too is when you guys are learning, a lot of people have a tendency to like pull the leader up and try to drag their nose down. We want the horse to be giving into the pressure. So I pick a point, let me show you guys on this side. So I pick a point of where my pressure is, and then I hold it there until he gives me his nose. Then I'll gently pull a little bit more, and same thing, I'll hold it there until he gives me his nose. That way he's giving himself the release until he comes all the way back, and then I give him that full release. Good boy. All right, do you guys have any questions about any of those? Right on. Well, thank you again for coming down tonight.